Okay, I'd like to introduce to you Brett Bickell of Bickell Built Homes. Had the pleasure of touring one of your latest homes recently, Brett, and you build exclusively new homes. You don't do renovations. You are a new home builder, predominantly there. What are you currently being asked for when you are building new homes with your clients?
Well, it obviously depends on the client. Basically, we go through a protocol with our clients where we're asking them to give us what their needs and wants are, because that information up front is very important. But there's been a trend for sure towards, main floor laundry room. We do build a lot of bungalows. And then things can sort of get refined after that and more detailed as far as, what their needs are. And obviously the age of the client definitely plays into that to some degree too. So,
In terms of bungalows, speaking of that, is finding the space to build a bungalow challenging?
Not in our community, not where we're building now. And being that a lot of our customers are downsizing, it's not as much of a challenge. We are building in, 7,000, 8,000 population community, so it's a little bit different than building in Toronto or something like that. But no, and honestly, probably over the last 10 years, we built about 85% bungalows. 85% are one floor. The reason for that being is because you can always finish the basement. And the resale market on bungalows seems to be a little bit better. You can open up the market and sell to a family when you have a bungalow, but you can also sell to retirees, young professionals, and so on and so on. So coming from where I come from, bungalows are very, very popular.
And in the bungalows, are you getting asked a lot about universal design, for instance, like higher toilets, anything? Like, are you getting asked those questions now, or is that part of the conversation?
Not in those terms necessarily, but
right,
yes,
they don't walk in, hi, I'd like to talk
yeah.
about universal design.
And I find that people are maybe a little bit reluctant to sort of talk about those things right off the bat, but then as the process sort of develops and you get a little bit more detailed, a lot of times we'll bring those items up and people go, oh, I can have a comfort height toilet. I can have a shower that I can basically walk right into without having to step over a curb. So it's about educating our customers about those things, because a lot of times when customers come in, unless they have some specific accessibility need, they haven't really had a whole lot of thought about that outside of I have trouble with stairs and I don't want to climb stairs. That's sort of, the thing we hear a lot. And then that turns into more and more things all the time.
So they're not necessarily thinking about what they may need in the long term. It's more of like, this is what I want right now, and fulfilling the wants, but not so much the insight or the foresight to be able to think about how long am I going to live here, and what might I need in the future.
Or just even what's on the market. But yes, like long term, and we talked about long term future, you want to be planning for, aging in place. You want to be planning for what is your lifestyle going to be like 20 years from now, not just right now or next year or the year after, right? So
aging in place tends not to be a very sexy term. So I think probably that's what turns a lot of people off. But the reality is, if you talk about it like universal design or like extending the usable life of that home for the family, that also speaks to the price that they can get for it, because now anybody can move into that home. Yeah. So having the vision to see not only their own age, but also the resale value seems to me to be a really important conversation.
It is, for sure, and that's a really, really good point, because with the way that we build these homes now, you can sort of make a universally designed house sort of blend into the landscape, make it less overt, make it so that it looks like your everyday house, until you sort of start looking closer into the details and go, oh, this actually is easier for me to live in. And, it's a great point you make about resale, because nobody's going to buy a house because it's accessible. Nobody's going to not buy a house because it's accessible, I should say. So, it just adds value. Similar to the discussion that we just had about bungalows. Well, why are we building so many bungalows? Because it opens up the market. Well, if you've got a universally designed house, that opens up even more of that market. So, it's a great point. Yeah.
Really. And are you seeing that kind of vision in consumers, or are you finding that they really don't know how to even have that conversation?
Yeah, there's they're a little bit tentative about having that conversation unless they are, quite a bit older and they're sort of making a decision between a retirement home and building a small bungalow. Then they sort of have some defined ideas in their head. But outside of that, I think getting older is something we're all a little bit insecure about to some degree, and our customers and young and old are no different. And so they have some reluctance to talk about it, but really it's about having that relationship with your customer, having those detailed conversations before you break ground, because action before thought is chaos, right? And so
Sure.
you want to have thought before action, and then you can do something that's efficient and that works for the market. So.
Right. And what kinds of design pieces are you finding yourself building into these homes more often? We talked about the comfort toilets.
Yes.
What other kinds of things that would fall in the realm of universal design are you looking at?
So a lot of zero barrier showers mainly.
Yes.
Zero
A
barrier
man after
Yeah,
my
I
own
love
heart.
those. I
Yes.
love them. Yeah.
Yeah. So and there again, it takes some thought early on in the design process to make sure that we're prepared to do those things. So that's a big one. The comfort
Which
height
it
toilet.
might
Yep.
be a bit more costly to dig lower, and that, but in the long run, I think you get what you pay for. It is so worth it.
I have to tell you, I go to Europe every couple of years, and the places I stay
Yes.
in there, that's just what they all are.
Right.
And they don't think of it as universal design. They
No.
think of it as beautiful design, period.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, ease of access, right? For anyone. It doesn't necessarily have to do with what your skill level is with walking around on a
Right.
daily basis necessarily. So yeah, showers is a big one. Just wider doorways, wider hallways, all these kinds of things. We haven't built anything that was zero barrier entry to the house yet. It is something that we've been looking at in detail for some of our lifestyle home projects and things like that. But I definitely think it's trending in that direction.
But I think even some of the wider doorways and aisleways go with the higher ceiling heights too. It's all part
Yes.
of aesthetics and design, and I love it. And the open concept, which Larry earlier on in our podcast mentioned that open concept was a foreign concept in many years ago, and then now we want to blow the rooftops off, higher ceilings, wider doorways, all of this stuff. But it's aesthetics as well.
Yeah, and people want what they see. If they can tangibly come into a house and see, for instance, a shower or whatever that is barrier-free, and they go, oh, that's the only difference. I think they sometimes get a little bit thrown off by the terms that get thrown around early on and get lost in the language of it.
That's our challenge,
It
Melissa. We've
doesn't
gotta-
look like I'm in a hospital.
We've got to
the
come up with
wording.
a new term.
Yes.
Yeah, you don't. They're concerned that it could be institutional. And
Yes.
it doesn't
Yes.
have
And
to
it can be the
institutional.
furthest thing
That's
from it.
exactly
Yeah.
right. Yeah. So, like anything in life, they're scared of the unknown, and it's our job as a building community to show them the known and show them what we can do. So.
Last for me, Brett, you have an awesome Instagram account. You're always active on social media. And I saw I believe it was the cottage that you are building or built for your parents. What is that process like? Because that's obviously got to help you with your clientele and customers, building something for your parents
Yeah.
and knowing their needs, and then thinking about what you might want in the future as well.
Yeah, for sure. Working with family is always.
That's a whole other problem. That's a whole other problem.
Yeah, that's a different podcast. Yeah. But no.
Different kind of renovation.
Well, I think with our business, we've worked a lot with, because we do lifestyle homes, we do multifamily homes. We worked a lot with, the population as a whole. That 50+ market is a huge market right now. So we worked a lot with sort of that 50+ market and what they're looking for in the next 10 to 20 years and things like that. So we've been able to pull from all those experiences while working with my parents and others. I've lost my train of thought.
No, that's okay. You actually mentioned something really interesting, multifamily homes, that whole concept of multi-generational, which in some cultures is normal, is now becoming more normalized for us.
Yes.
So you're seeing some of that request coming through.
Absolutely, and there again, that aging concept of aging in place. Well, somebody's downsizing from their family home, and in some cases they've lost a spouse, or they need to be able to live in a house that they can age in place, and they see that as being something smaller, something that they can afford, and they're not scared to live in a multi-family situation, because then that puts them into and I'm sure Larry Otten could speak to this as well, about a more of a community setting, surrounded by people who are like-minded and within a similar sort of age bracket, and so we've seen we did 20 lifestyle home units in St. Mary's over the course of the last 4 years, and it was our fastest moving set of projects at that time. Because they were just selling like crazy, and so we were trying to get them built as quickly as we could, and it was a great market for us. So.
Terrific.
But I love the idea too, just in closing here, Brett, the fact that families aren't afraid to live together, like grandma, grandpa's, all of that. I hate the term granny suite. I don't think that should exist. And I think they've changed it so much now. Like, design doesn't have to be, oh, you're over here, you're here. You can do so much now, and you do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Brett.
Okay, thank you guys. That's awesome.